You complain when the temperature drops below 50. You turn up the thermostat, pull on a jacket, and call it a rough day. But for over 100,000 years, your ancestors lived through cold you cannot actually imagine. And the real reason they survived it has almost nothing to do with toughness. Picture the world 20,000 years ago at the peak of what scientists call the last glacial maximum. Ice sheets a mile thick buried most of North America and Europe. Average temperatures sat 10 to 15 degrees colder than today. Sea level dropped so far that land bridges opened between continents. No heated buildings, no woven wool, no matches, just wind, ice, and a body built for the African savanna, somehow expected to survive a landscape closer to modern Siberia. How does a hairless primate live through that? The answer is not brute strength, it is invention. Archaeologist Olga Soffer spent years studying Ice Age sites across Central and Eastern Europe, and she found something that rewrote the story entirely. Tiny holes in fired clay, too small and too regular to be natural, left behind by woven plant fiber that had long since rotted away. Your ancestors were not just wearing animal hides thrown over their shoulders. They were weaving cordage, netting, and fitted clothing tens of thousands of years before anyone assumed textiles existed. Sewn, layered clothing traps warm air against the skin the same way your winter coat does now. That single technology may have mattered more to survival than fire itself. And it did not stop at clothing. At a site called Mezhirich in Ukraine, archaeologists uncovered something almost unbelievable. Circular dwellings built entirely from mammoth bones, dozens of skulls and tusks stacked and interlocked like a load-bearing skeleton, then covered in hide. No trees for miles in that treeless steppe. So your ancestors looked at the largest animal on the continent and saw building material. Is that not a completely different picture than the one you were taught in school? Historian Brian Fagan, who has written extensively on how early humans adapted to the last glaciation, argues that the real engine of Ice Age survival was not any single tool. It was cooperation. Small bands rarely survived alone. They maintained social ties across enormous distances, trading shells, stone, and information with groups they might see only once a year. If a herd failed to appear in one territory, that network was the difference between starving and being fed by a neighboring band 200 miles away. Your ancestors were not just enduring the cold, they were running an insurance system built entirely out of relationships. Here is the twist almost nobody expects. Archaeologist John Hoffaker, who has spent decades studying how humans first pushed into Arctic environments, points out that the eyed needle, a tiny sliver of bone with a hole punched through one end, may be one of the most consequential inventions in human history. It allowed tight, wind-resistant seams instead of loose, draped hides. That needle, barely the length of your fingernail, is arguably why your species reached the Arctic Circle, while every other cold-adapted primate stayed in the tropics. Sometimes the smallest object changes everything. So think about what actually kept your ancestors alive through an ice age that lasted longer than all of recorded human history combined. It was not thick skin. It was not raw endurance. It was noticing a problem, solving it with whatever material was standing in front of them, and then sharing that solution with people who were not even related to them. That habit, passed down through hundreds of generations, is the same habit sitting inside you right now every time you troubleshoot something new. You are not separate from that story. Every layer of your winter coat descends conceptually from a bone needle stitching fur into something a body could survive in. Every group chat you rely on when things go wrong is a smaller, faster version of the trade network that once saved a starving band on the mammoth steppe. The technology changed. The instinct to build, adapt, and lean on other people did not. So the next time you complain about turning up the thermostat, remember what that small comfort is actually standing on. It is not weakness that got you here. It is the same quiet genius that once turned a dead mammoth into a house and a sliver of bone into the reason your species could survive anywhere on Earth. The cold never beat them, and it is still not beating you.